Hello and welcome. I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Susan McCulley. She is a mindful movement teacher, artist, writer, and an A+ encourager of all people. She's the creator of the Age of Becoming online community, which offers women practices, interviews, connection um, for women who are over 50. Is that right, Susan? Did I get that right? Yeah. She's also got a course, which is Building Your Body and Life, which she published on the Insight Timer Meditation app in early 2022. Nia is also a big part of Susan's life. She's a black belt instructor, and she loves teaching embodied awareness to people of all abilities and experiences, and groups of all sizes as well. And recently, both online and in person. Susan is passionate about supporting people as they connect with the inherent wisdom in the body and take that practice into their lives. And this has led to some really fruitful discussions between the two of us around the overlap in the work that we do, because we both obsess about a lot of the same things, even though we come at it from very different perspectives. So welcome, Susan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Natalie, it's a joy to be with you.
So, Susan, I was wondering if you had something you wanted to add to that intro, and anything that you do right now or that you're working on right now that's really lighting you up.
Well, I think for me, I'm recovering from a broken foot that happened over the summer, and I am very aware of both the resilience of the body, the sort of inherent genius of the body,
Mm.
and the impact of changes in our bodies, in our lives, on our mental and emotional health as well. So I'm really been investigating these overlaps of the physical, the emotional, the mental, and how we maintain some equilibrium, some balance, and also energy and passion at the same time.
Yes, I love that. And I think one of the things I love about your messaging and your community is the way that you invite people to really consider new ways of thinking and being that really frees them up to enjoy more of what they want in life, no matter what the circumstances are. I think that's so, so powerful. So one of the things that we talk about a lot and that we wanted to bring to this conversation today was around the idea of overwhelm. As we were just saying before we started to record this conversation, being in the world today is overwhelming. And so overwhelm is not just around parenting or just around career. It's really something that so many of us are struggling with right now. And so I wanted to ask you, what does that look like in terms of our bodies and our nervous systems?
Yeah. Well, I think that you're absolutely right that whoever you are, wherever you are likely to have some issues with overwhelm. The sheer speed of the world, the amount of information that we have pouring on us all the time is not the way our bodies and minds were designed to process, right?
Right.
And I've read that our bodies and minds are designed to be able to take in the comings and goings of approximately 100 people.
Mm, mm,
And that's, I mean, that would include an extended community, right? Your family and the people in your closest to you, your closest friends, but then your neighborhood and, maybe outside of that a little bit. And that's it.
right.
And yet we are in a information culture that is pouring information about literally billions of people all the time. And so what happens is that it's like our circuits get overloaded, and our sympathetic nervous system can turn on. That's the fight or flight system
Mhm,
that gets us, it narrows down our ability to see possibilities, right?
mhm,
So as we go
mhm.
into fight or flight, it starts to become like, I can only see the problems. I can only see what's hurting me. I can only see what's upsetting. And I don't have the ability to open up into my peripheral vision, to relax and allow my prefrontal cortex to come on and help with reasoning and um, that kind of creative thinking, which we need when we are in times of stress. And so,
Mhm.
so I think that having a conversation about what overwhelm does in our bodies and minds and how we can navigate it is really important for everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean, in addition to what's happening in the nervous system and in the brain, the body will hold stress too. And
Mhm, mhm.
so, it's very individual, but there are some common places that people tend to hold tension in their shoulders, in their jaws, in their hands, in your gut and your belly, in your hips. So that what can happen is a whole cascade of physical manifestations of the stress and the overwhelm that can range anywhere from digestive issues to sleep issues to just discomfort and pain in the body,
Mhm.
lack of mobility, like all kinds of things that can
Yeah,
cascade from
yeah.
these overwhelming situations. So it makes it even more important in this culture that we live in to have ways of kind of downshifting and getting our whole brains and bodies online in a way that we can be responsive rather than reactive.
Yes. Yes. And interestingly enough, with my clients who are all, high achieving, driven, very successful in their field, um, when we start to dig into the big blocks and the struggles they have, the stress and overwhelm are actually the top two most common problems that we need to address, because it's really just everywhere. There is just, like you said, too much information, and we're just trying to filter far too much on a day-to-day. And personally, I've also dealt with it. I think everybody's dealing with it right now, and I have found that reconnecting to my body through movement and creating that somatic awareness is one of the most powerful and effective ways to expand back into the body and connect back to that sense of confidence and be ready to step into growth. So for me, this feels really not just personal, but also really relevant to the kind of clients that I work with as well, because I, feel like these are actually crucial practices, which is why I invited you today to talk.
Yeah, you're so right. I love what you're saying. It's exactly on point. And connecting with our body's somatic practice, a body-centered practice, can look a, a million different ways.
Yes.
And it can be anything as simple as just connecting to your senses. What do I see right now? What do I hear? What can I touch, smell, taste?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it sounds like it's sort of a narrowing, what happens is that that brings us into the present moment instead of into this expansive sea of stress, right? Um, and and it can be any kind of breathing practice or movement practice. It can be walking around your neighborhood or turning on your favorite song and dancing around in your kitchen, and whatever it looks like for you. And what I invite for people who work with me is to find a way to not make movement another stress, like
Right. Yes.
another place where I have to be achieving, another
Yes.
place,
Yeah.
right, where I'm like, if it starts to become something that we dread, or that is just a matter of checking off the box,
Yes. Another
it
to do.
yes, another thing to do. It's not going to have the same impact as if we find something that brings us joy, brings us pleasure, connects us to other people. Another important aspect of dealing with overwhelm. So I really invite people who work with me to think beyond, way beyond exercise,
Yeah.
to think about movement and sensation and pleasure as
Mhm.
much as fitness and all of the attending kind of cultural things that go along with that.
Yes, yes, so so powerful. And I think this last thing that you said, stepping into, reconnecting to pleasure, it's finding that joy, finding the way to connect to that higher level of energy and decision to show up in that way is actually really a brave thing to do in the face of all of the negativity and the really traumatic world news that we're surrounded by all the time. So I think it's amazing to have a practice that supports you in doing that.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about how we can use that body that we've been given with all its amazingness and limitation, in this practice of curing overwhelm.
Yeah. Well, I think that we can learn a lot from the natural world.
Mm,
And so looking at, for example, the way animals move
mm,
is a fascinating exploration. One of the things that I often recommend to people, if they're feeling overwhelmed, if you have that narrowing feeling like your circuits
mm.
are chock full,
Yeah.
is to shake your body, is to literally shake your body. And so you can shake your hands, you can get up and just shake your whole body. It's fascinating to me that when in stress, when animals have been in a stressful situation,
Mm,
say they've been chased by a predator, or they have escaped some kind of scary situation,
mhm,
what
mhm.
animals do is shake. What
Oh,
what humans do is hold.
contract.
Yeah? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like we squeeze, we try to control, we
Yeah.
try to clamp down the feelings that come up, the sensations that come up. And this is why I just love shaking. Shaking is like the simplest thing to do. If you do it for just a few seconds, it dissipates the energy that's gathered in your body and
Yes.
lets it go, rather than carrying it around with you.
Mm,
This
yeah.
is this is part of the practice of getting outside of chronically held stress. is to
Mm-hmm.
find ways of releasing that energy. And sure, you can do it. You can go for a run. You can go for a nice walk in the woods, or a bike ride. But you can just shake your body, and it's radical, right? Because it's so countercultural
Yeah.
to make that choice, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for
I can
years.
totally see how that contraction just limits our joy, all right, our inner and outer connection, because we're just still frozen. We haven't released the stressful event, the stressful thing that just got triggered in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. It narrows our joy, it narrows our physical capacity, our mental capacity, and our
Yes.
emotional capacity. And
Right.
so it's one of my favorite go-to things, is like, if you feel stuck, unstick yourself by shaking. And so that's one of my favorites. And if you ever watch, even pets will do this. Absolutely. Will give themselves a good shake after they've come across a grumpy neighbor dog or something, right? They will shake themselves
True.
out.
Yeah, it's true. It's so
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
the other thing that I love to learn from animals and from the natural world is rest.
Oh,
Is
oh yes.
pause. Right?
It's something we're not good at all.
We are not good at it. And I'm making a distinction between sleep and rest. Sleep is absolutely essential and
Right,
important,
right.
but I'm saying that this is something that's different, that is a way of resting the body, a non-sleeping rest.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we tend to do is, when we have time for that kind of rest, is we tend to put ourselves onto screens. And um,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with a good Netflix binge, for sure. And it's not really letting your body and mind rest in the way that it needs. So,
Mm-hmm.
so just closing your eyes, finding a comfortable position. I like to just lie down on the floor, but giving yourself a pause, a way of resetting with stillness, is incredibly powerful and rejuvenating. And again, it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it for just a couple of minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a similar impact of letting your body reset itself.
Yeah.
And even just 5 minutes of that kind of rest can really be rejuvenating.
Yes, it really can. I tried that recently and I couldn't believe, just I felt like I'd had a cup of coffee. I was like, yeah, it's okay. I'm ready to go again. It was
Yeah,
it was amazing.
yeah.
So of course the other side of overwhelm, especially the side of overwhelm that I deal with a lot in my clients and for myself, is the fact that we have so many things on our plates, so many things that we're all trying to do every day. And one of the things that we really struggle with is something that's called decision fatigue. And one of the things that contributes to that is that we have roughly about 35,000 decisions to make every day in order to function in the modern world. And so one of the things that can be hard is if you're not prioritizing what you're spending your time on, what your goals are, what your how you want to spend your time. It's so easy to get to that stage of decision fatigue because you've just put on way too many things on your plate and you're trying to do way too much. So one of the ways, there are many ways, but one of the ways of getting clarity around that is acknowledging that there's that much that we're trying to do and learning how to use our resources more effectively. So our bodies, but also our mental capacity, and using it in much more intentional ways. And then finding one of the tools that I help my clients with is finding different ways to filter out this overload of information so that you can start to identify what are the most important things, the things that are actually going to move the needle and move me towards the things I really want in my life, as opposed to just taking things on because out of obligation or out of thinking, well, I should be doing this. This is important. And the truth is there are way too many important things that we can be spending our time on. So
and an endless supply of unimportant things. I mean,
exactly. Yes.
I know that for myself, if my inbox is overflowing,
Yes.
I can just sort of dive in and just start, I don't know, just doing whatever is in front of me
Exactly.
with some idea of like, well, maybe I can just clear it off and then I'll have some open space. But it's it's it often will just sap me of all of my energy, and I haven't really spent the time on the things
Right. Yeah.
that matter to me personally, to matter to the people who I care about, and matter in the world.
Yeah.
Um, if all I'm doing is clearing out my inbox.
Yeah. And we could spend all day, dealing with messages on our phones. I mean, it's relentless.
Yeah.
So yeah, having an ability to live more in alignment with those things that matter to us really helps us prioritize things and gives us a lens from which to zoom out a little bit and reset. It makes it easier to say no to something that isn't going to help you move towards the person you want to be. Can really help you address some of these bigger questions.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you're saying. And again, as you and I have discovered over and over again, there's so much overlap in our work. And um, I I absolutely agree, is getting very clear on the values that we hold is so important. And coming back into the body is what I call embodiment practices,
Mm-hmm.
which is for example, imagine that one of your values is honesty or kindness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
either one, and asking yourself, how does kindness fit? How does kindness stand? How does kindness move through the world, walk through a space, interact with people?
Mm-hmm.
And allowing ours to use not just our mental facilities to identify the things that we kind of think matter to us,
Mm-hmm.
but also letting it come into our very selves. And when we do that, what happens with that kind of practice is that if you come to me with a project and I can feel my whole body when you propose it, and I can feel if something feels like a no,
Mm-hmm.
even if it feels like it's an important thing, this isn't the one for me, because I have a connection with the sensation in my body.
Yes, yes. So, for with my clients, if someone is like beating themselves up because they haven't started writing the book that they promised themselves that they were going to write, we connect back to which values are being prioritized, and then that allows you to actually get your power back, because then you can say, actually, no, this really does align fully with my values and it really is important, so I need to reset everything else. And having this way of filtering out what we want to be spending our time and energy on actually allows us to build that sense of safety in the body as well. Like we can start to breathe and know what choices we're making.
Yeah, it does. I love the word building capacity, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And what happens when we come at our the competing demands for our time and attention and money and energy, is to come at it with this holistic approach, which can really allow us, um, not just to filter and say yes and no to things, but also be able to regulate ourselves, regulate our bodies, our breath, our nervous system, so that it takes it it it, it takes more to overwhelm us, which is kind of a backwards way of saying it. It's like fewer things overwhelm us, right? That we are
Yes,
able to navigate with more capacity,
exactly.
and
Yes.
that also takes practice. And but as we've been talking about, it's so essential for everybody to be able to find ways of calming ourselves, of re-engaging with our priorities and what matters,
Mm.
and listening to the wisdom, not just of our brains, although that's super important, but also the wisdom of the body. Yeah.
Ah, I love this. Thank you so much, Susan. So Susan and I really want to help women step into these new levels of confidence and internal success. And so we would love to invite you to come to a webinar where we can dive in a little bit deeper into these questions, and we'll look at how overwhelm manifests in our lives and our bodies. And we want to give you a couple of tools that you can walk away with to start building that sense of ease in the body, and create a clear direction for the new year based on that, and see if that brings about some ease and some relief from the overwhelm. So
Yeah. And to build the resources to do those things that
yes.
really matter, right? Yeah. And yeah, I'm so excited to let our practices meld together.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much, Susan. I'm so happy that you were able to join me for this conversation today. Tell our listeners how they can find you online if they would like to.
Yes, yes. You can find just about everything about me and my work at my website, which is susanmcculley.com. And Natalie mentioned the Building Balance course on Insight Timer. You can find information about that, my classes, and my books and my art. So
Oh, lots of wonderful stuff to check out. I encourage you to do that. So thank you, and I will send out information about that webinar as well to follow up from this recording. Thank you, Susan.
such a pleasure. Thanks, Natalie.